And you're listening live to Sportsnoise episode College Football Preview 2015 edition. I am your host, John Carroll, and as always, I am joined by my co-hosts, the lovely and talented, but he's not the pretty one, he's the brains behind the operation, Steve Steffens.
Good evening, one and all, and it's football time in Tennessee.
No. I am also joined by a man who is extremely smart, but he is the pretty one of the podcast, Glenn Ring.
Howdy, folks.
Yes, it is that time again, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. We had those 2 little episodes to whet your appetite, but you know what? We're here for the football. We live in SEC country, better known as God's country, because there's everyone here's Christian. Outside. Although I find
heathens.
I do find it funny that on this podcast we have one Christian, an atheist, and a Buddhist.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Glenn's Christian, and I think he's lapsed. Aren't you lapsed Catholic?
No, I grew up Presbyterian. I'm probably a agnostic-leaning atheist.
Yeah. Okay. So we have 2 people who deny the existence of God and one who believes in multiple gods.
Roll Tide.
And we're in the middle buckle of the Bible Belt. Yay! It's gonna be funny because I'm actually on video tonight because I'm on my laptop, so everybody's gonna be seeing the. If you watch the video of this at YouTube, you'll be able to see my facial expressions.
Yeah.
All right. We got to do it. It's the one thing that I know we're absolutely gonna hate to talk about. Who starts a quarterback for the season for Ohio State?
Well, I told someone I thought Art Schlichter should start, and then I realized
I'll take that bet. Oh, come on, I had to get in.
Yeah, no, of course you did. Braxton Miller wound up saying the hell with it and moved out to wide receiver. So it's J.T. Barrett.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. When J.T. Barrett, who started most of the year and looked like a potential Heisman contender, I mean, he had a spectacular season, of course, not counting the debacle with Virginia Tech. And then he goes down. They thought, well, Ohio State's dead, and then this kid named Cardale Jones out of Cleveland just destroys everyone and becomes Godzilla in the Big Ten title game and the Sugar Bowl. Remember that, Glenn? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the national championship game. I don't know who's going to start. If it were me, I'd go with I'd go with Cardale Jones. He earned it. He absolutely freaking earned it with his performance in the 3 biggest games of the year for Ohio State. How can you deny him? I know J.T. Barrett's a good, solid college quarterback. He was a contender for the Heisman, but in a crunch time, you got to go with Cardale Jones. What are y'all thoughts?
I'm just going to say this. In the 12 games that he started last year, what was the award that Cardale Jones got? J.T. Barrett won? Oh, yeah, Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year.
Well, oh, yeah. The one thing I will say is I don't think it's going to matter in as much as I think they have enough stuff to beat Virginia Tech. And after that, they have some room to play with who's going to be the quarterback because the next games are Hawaii, Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, at Indiana, and Maryland.
Which means they're both going to see plenty of time in those games.
So, Barrett just on defense alone, they should be able to beat Virginia Tech. Yeah. So just get through this game, and then they have half the season basically to figure out who the best quarterback is.
Half? They don't have another competitive game till Michigan.
Well, anything can happen in the Big Ten schedule, but yeah, basically.
Yeah. And I feel bad for Virginia Tech because You know, they know they were embarrassed, and that game nearly cost them a shot at the national championship.
Who? Who the fuck are you talking about?
Ohio State.
Ohio State just won the national title.
No. I nearly cost them that losing that opening game.
They got as hurt as much by the perception of it's Ohio State, and the Big Ten was weak.
Well,
Not just
Well,
that. Then again, if the Big 12 had what I know what you're going to say, if the Big 12 had a title game, they would have put a team in there.
Well, and their conference schedule is marginal at best, and their non-conference schedule is horrible. So that doesn't score them many brownie points.
No.
In fact, that might be the one thing that keeps them out of the playoffs this year is that they don't have a lot of error because they're
14-1. Yeah, I mean they would have. I don't know if I can't say for certain they would have beaten Alabama with Barrett at quarterback, but I know they would have beaten Michigan. They would have beat Wisconsin without any problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that against Oregon, they probably would have won.
Yeah.
The only game that's in question is the game against Alabama.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of just weird bounces in that game both ways. You had some fairly big momentum swings going both ways in that game.
Yeah.
It looked like Alabama was about to just kill them when Ohio State had that big comeback in the second quarter, and then it just became a slugfest in the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Sorry, I was playing with the light here to make it a little easier on me. What about the rest of the Big Ten? I mean, I'm not going to point any fingers at the person that I believe is doing it, but yeah, I think that finger's pointed directly over where they are on my computer. But I don't think they're any better than 8-4.
Who? Ohio State?
Michigan.
Oh, Michigan.
Ohio State's winning the Big 12.
No, but here's the thing. Ohio State's winning the Big 10.
Big 10, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
They got 12, Big 14, whatever.
And 7-5, 8-4 for Jim Harbaugh this year. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they've got such a huge rebuilding program, and there's a lot of people going apeshit because of the camps in SEC country, which I thought was utterly hilarious. But you still got to build a program. You got to rebuild that program. It's going to take a while. But never underestimate Jim Harbaugh in a big game, and it wouldn't surprise me if they rolled in to Columbus 7-4 and beat Ohio State. I mean, it wouldn't knock them out of the Big Ten championship game, wouldn't even knock them out of the playoffs. But I could see this being a repeat of 1969 when Ohio State was undefeated, but Michigan beat them in the last game to win the Big Ten title in the Rose Bowl berth. So,
and I think Michigan State is actually better than Michigan.
This year, yes.
Michigan State's been better than Michigan most of the last decade.
No, I don't think anybody would argue that.
No. Northwestern, do they go back to a bowl?
If they don't, Pat Fitzgerald may be in trouble. I never thought I would say that. But, he's the one who raised the expectations, first as a player and then as a head coach. But, they've slipped the last couple of years, and he really needs to get this thing turned around. I mean, it's not like he's got anything to worry about in Champaign-Urbana.
Well, we are 3 years removed from that 10-3 season, so.
Yeah, and his recruiting seems to have suffered a little bit. So we'll, I look at basically Ohio State, Michigan State. And let's not forget that James Franklin's got Penn State moving in the right direction. I still think Christian Hackenberger is too inconsistent for them to get much beyond 8 or 9 wins.
You mean the
But
next quarterback for the Washington R's?
oh, it would serve them right. But no, I just Ohio State walks away with that. So the West is going to be interesting now that they're in East and West divisions. We'll get a little better sense of Wisconsin. To see if they can stay within 2 touchdowns of Alabama.
No, they won't.
Well,
Well, that's not the bet of that game though. And I'm totally stealing this from Clay Travis, but I think it's right. Bet the under. It's 51 points. There's no way that those two teams are going to score 51 points.
No, I'd agree
What?
with that.
And what's the spread?
10.
So 31-20.
Yeah.
Well, that's never going to happen. Bet the under.
No.
That's the under. I'd say more like 24-10.
I'm going to hammer that like Keith Moon at the Jack Daniels distillery.
God. Oh, no. I think that the surprise team in the West is not going to be Nebraska or Iowa, which finally, hopefully, this will be Kirk Ferentz's final year there, and they can get the program going again. I mean, it's been on life support the last 3 or 4 years, and I don't know how the hell he's kept his job. I think the surprise team and maybe the West champion will be your Minnesota Golden Gophers. Jerry Kill has got them in the right direction, and I think they can win the West. Now, of course, they'll be blown out in a championship game against Ohio State, but, still, considering that Minnesota hasn't won a Big Ten title since, I think, 1960? Just to be able to play for the championship would really be an epic accomplishment. And I think I can see Minnesota winning the Big Ten West.
I think it's going to be Wisconsin.
The only thing I will say is that I'm actually pissed at being happy over Illinois. Because I'm glad that they fired that piece of shit, but I'm disappointed that I won't get to root against Illinois in every game just to see that guy get his ass beat every week.
Well, as an Illinois fan since the womb, my feeling is, why the hell did they wait so long except to cover their ass legally? I mean, that's the only reason that they didn't fire him sooner. Tim Beckman, I am hoping, will never be a head coach in major college football ever again. I mean, what he did, and I know that there are probably a whole lot of other places where it happens, but in this day and age, if you're a Power 5 conference program, you can't allow that to happen. And, bye-bye, Tim Beckman. Don't let the doorknob hit you on the ass.
All I'm going to say is that if he gets fired, you know where he'll end up.
Where?
In that place where they go, and that's the NAIA.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fucking Dave Bliss is a head coach in the NAIA.
Ugh.
Either that, or they go back to being a coordinator somewhere.
Who?
Yeah. Or they go back to being a coordinator somewhere.
Yeah, but if they want a head coach job, they go to NAIA because that's where Dave Bliss is. That's where the guy that was at Rutgers, Now I know I'm talking basketball here.
Yeah, and what about Hal Mummy? Isn't he there?
No, he's in the Division.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Division 2.
Because he's just down the street, Bubba.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Hal Mummy. Yeah, we just read that article here just recently.
He's at Belhaven U, baby.
In beautiful Jackson, Mississippi, where I'll be a week from Saturday.
A week from Saturday. Hold on.
Yeah, it's Celtic Fest, Mississippi.
Those things just don't go together.
Yeah, well, I know, but you'd be shocked. Well,
Next up
What's
would be, let's say, Big 12.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
misnamed. It's like we're doing one misnamed, we'll go to another misnamed.
there you go.
TCU all the way, baby.
Well, TCU and Baylor. I mean, they're far and away the best teams in that conference. But while we're talking about TCU and Baylor, why don't we go take a look at, oh, I don't know, maybe their non-conference schedules or lack thereof.
So
I
they
mean,
play an SEC schedule. What's your complaint?
the rest of the conference isn't strong enough to allow them to do that and still make the playoffs. I could see where they're both 11-1, tie for the Big 12 title, and don't go to the playoffs.
Playoffs. No.
And that's going to be the sign. That will be a double-edged message to the Big 12. Number one, you've got to actually have 12 members and have a damn conference championship, and you need to upgrade your non-conference schedule, at least play somebody from one of the Power 5 conferences in your non-conference. So, and I think TCU and Baylor are going to pay dearly again for that. And
Steve.
I don't have either of them in my Final Four. Yes, John.
You don't have TCU in the Final Four? Okay.
Because
I have TCU there.
You would think that they should. I've heard some people pick them to win the whole damn thing, and I can
have
see that
TCU
too.
going undefeated.
Well, that's about the only way they're getting into the playoffs.
Undefeated. I think it's going to come down to the ACC really, because I think the Pac-12, Big Ten, and SEC are all going to have teams in the playoff, and it'd be a matter of what record does the ACC champion have versus either Baylor or TCU. Because if Florida State has a bad year and Clemson doesn't get in, which seems to be the two teams that would have a chance, then a one-loss or no-loss Baylor or TCU would get in.
Yeah. I mean, TCU's final game is versus Baylor. Baylor's final game is the next week against Texas. So TCU wraps up at Thanksgiving and Baylor the next week. I mean, looking at Baylor's schedule, they had SMU, Lamar, I have no idea, Rice, Texas Tech, KU, West Virginia, Iowa State, K-State, Oklahoma, OK State, TCU, and Texas. Baylor's.
The only bad thing about that is it's so backloaded that they have all the cupcakes early.
Well, they've got Oklahoma at home, State and TCU on the road, and Texas at home.
Yeah, but all the bad teams they play early.
Yeah, but they really only have one. They don't have anything that they won't be favored at until TCU.
Yeah, but it's enjoyable football, but the bad thing if you're a Big 12 fan is that these teams seem to get in these shootouts that can go either way. Mm-hmm. That seems to be what got them in trouble, is losing these really high-scoring shootout games.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. But yeah. But basically, the Big 12, we're just saying TCU and Baylor will fight it out for whoever wins.
Yeah. Right, you've got like three you've got what? Hang on. You've got the teams at the bottom, you've got a bunch of teams squashed in the middle, and Baylor and TCU at the top.
But let's say that TCU slips up along the way, and they have to beat Baylor, and that they both come off 11-1, and they don't have a championship game to go to. I think there's still that possibility that they both get shut out again, even though one or maybe both would deserve it. Ultimately, the Big 12 is going to have to bite the bullet and bring in two more teams, and probably from the eastern side of the country. One of them, with any luck, being right here in Memphis, Tennessee, and the other one either UCF or USF. And that would give you a solid Big 12 North with the Kansas schools, Cincinnati, West Virginia, Memphis, and UCF or USF, and that would bring back the old Big 12 South with the Okie schools and the Texas schools. But that's the only way that they're going to be able to that and upgrading their non-conference. That's the only way they're going to be able to ensure that they have a playoff team every year.
I think they'll more look at Cincinnati before they look at UCF or USF. They've already got a deal because geographically it makes a little more sense for them to go Midwestern or Upper Midwestern just because of flights.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier for Iowa State to get to Cincinnati or Memphis than it is for them to get to Central Florida or South Florida.
What about Houston in their own backyard?
Maybe. Houston's the one team I could see screwing Memphis out of it. The problem is that Houston has a garbage basketball team, and traditionally has had a garbage basketball team.
Well, no, they haven't had a really good team in 20-something years. Yeah.
You just proved my point. And what do they have for that? And basically, outside of Phi Slamma Jamma, and what was his name? I cannot remember the
Elvin Hayes.
Elvin Hayes. What has Houston done? Memphis at least has been consistently decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, check the chat link. I just sent something to you just now, Steve.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right. Let me.
Hate yawning. Okay.
Oh, I don't have anything in the chat link.
Okay. No, you sure? Look in the group chat.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. You're in the video call. Okay.
Well, it should be over here to the right.
I'm looking at it, and I'm not. It said I don't have anything other than I'm in the video call.
You see where my finger's pointed?
Hang on, let me pull this back up. And you're pointing. Yeah, that.
Right.
Oh.
The finger I'm using is the fun one.
Yeah, I don't need to know where that's been, frankly.
I'll never tell. While he tries to figure out technology, ACC.
No. Oh, yeah, ACC.
This is the land of the who gives a shit. Florida State probably goes 10-2, but an ugly 10-2.
Well, they win an ugly 11-0.
12-0. Oh, 11-0. Yeah, that's right. They had a game washed out. I mean, you want to talk about a weak non-conference? Texas State, USF, Florida, and Chattanooga. Yeah. So basically, we got to have Clemson Georgia Tech.
This is my surprise of the night.
Duke.
I say the Clemson Tigers win the ACC and go to the playoffs.
Oh, for a fact, if they're 11-0 going into South Carolina, the HBC will enjoy that game if they win.
I'm not sure the OBC lasts beyond this year. We'll talk more about that when we get to the SEC.
That South Carolina, Steve.
I don't care if it was on the beach at Myrtle Beach. I think Clemson wins this year. I've just got a weird feeling about them, and no, it's not gas. I'm high on Clemson and nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably find out a lot about Louisville in this first game versus Auburn.
Yep. I would think so.
Yeah. As we've learned,
I think that's going to be telling for both teams.
Yes.
Yeah. As we've learned, you can't judge anything by the first 2 weeks of a season. It's generally, yeah.
I just mean where they are at the start of the season. I'm not saying that that's going to be a reflection of the entire season, but it's a good. Because I think there are two teams that could potentially make a run, particularly Auburn. and it's really more of a test of Auburn than it is Louisville. Because
Yeah.
if Auburn wins, they were supposed to win. If Louisville wins, it's an upset.
Yeah.
But I've seen it. A lot of people seem to like Louisville in this game for the upset.
What's the line on it, Glenn?
Hang on, I'll look.
While he does that, by the way, Steve, did you ever get it to pull up?
No, I did not.
It's Belhaven College's schedule. They play at home next Saturday against Wisconsin Whitewater.
Woohoo! Wow. Oh, okay. Hang on a second. Hello. What are you? Then boom. Okay, I see it now. I pulled it up. Notice that I. Belhaven. Wow. Wisconsin Whitewater. Oh, they open against my Millsaps Majors. Woohoo! And
Auburn is an 11-point favorite.
yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I think Auburn wins. And that game is in the loveliest village on the plains. So, yeah.
I thought this was a neutral site game.
Is it?
I think they're playing in Hotlanta.
Oh, is that the Atlanta? That's right. That's the Atlanta game because Bama, Wisconsin's in the Jerry Dome, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, apparently they're not. That game is not selling well.
Wow. Okay, that's a shock.
But speaking of the Louisville Auburn game, I was just reading about this, getting ready for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Louisville and Auburn have only played twice. Oh, this will be the second time. The first time was in Birmingham, so neither game has been at either Louisville or Auburn.
Nice.
Remember, Louisville played in a garbage dump for years, and yeah.
Yes.
This game, I think, yeah, I was talking. One of my sprint reps is a huge Louisville booster, so yeah. So he's talking about how they're expanding Papa John's Stadium.
Wow.
Yeah, but wasn't Louisville kind of like Memphis as far as football was just something until basketball season came around?
Until
Not really.
Well,
until Schnellenberger got there, kind of, but
yeah.
Even in the 70s, they were kind
when they were good in basketball in the 80s, football was kind of an afterthought.
Yeah, but they started getting good in the late 80s.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
And they were, pardon me, quasi-decent in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, don't forget who's their most famous alum.
Howard Griffith.
Mr. Black High Tops.
The great John Unitas, yes.
Yes. I was like to say, really? All right.
Know that Howard Griffith thing.
You sure it wasn't Bronny Nagel?
Please. Brian Brom! Anyway.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
But
we were both there.
Yep, freezing our asses off.
Mm-hmm. Hey, but at least Aaron Andrews was too. Oh, you're talking about the Liberty Bowl.
I'm not talking about the Liberty Bowl. I'm talking about that game 10 years ago.
The Louisville-Memphis game? That Thursday?
Yes.
I was there, and Aaron Andrews was working the sidelines for that game. Yes, she was.
Oh, she was. It was me, you, and Miller, if I remember correctly.
Yes, we were at that game. He's the one who pointed it out. Thought we were going to have to keep him from going down there and getting arrested.
Oh, that would have been bad.
Oh, yes, indeedy.
All right, rest of the
I still pick Clemson, and I think Florida State's going to have a down year because Everett Golson's going in the tank. I think it'll be Clemson, and let me pull up the ACC. Hang on.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Clemson and Tech.
Yeah, that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, but it's going to be a 3 or 4 loss Tech team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look how bad the Coastal is.
Aye.
Okay, well, let's see. Conference USA, no, we don't give a shit. Let's
No,
just move
no, who
on.
cares?
The MAC, give even less of a shit.
NIU. But it'll probably be Bowling Green and Toledo.
I
At
don't even
least
know
Eastern,
who's in Conference USA anymore.
at least Eastern Michigan's not going to repeat what they did last year with that wall.
No.
Your Conference USA teams in the East is Western Kentucky, Marshall, ODU, Florida Atlantic, Florida International, MTSU, and UNC Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Your West is Rice, North Texas, La Tech, Southern Miss, UT San Antonio, and UTEP. Southern Miss picked the wrong time to go into have a bad run because they would have gone to the AC if they hadn't had
Yeah,
that
they would
three.
have owned this league about if this had been the same team in the like the 90s and early 2000s.
I cannot believe
Well, this
how.
is the team they were before 2011.
Yeah, before Larry Fedora went to Carolina, I mean, they literally fell off a cliff. They went from what, 10-3 to 0-11?
0 and 12, yeah.
Yeah,
They would
0-12.
have
It
been
was
that. They would have
horrible.
probably been the pick. They would have been the pick over probably Tulane.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the talking about Conference USA allows me to say this about Middle Tennessee State. That thing that Stephen sent out that previewed every SEC game.
Yes.
My favorite one was Vanderbilt versus Middle Tennessee. The fans of Vanderbilt versus the people who sell them the weed.
Yeah. Yeah, they went there, and you know what? They were right. But, in fact, we mentioned Conference USA, but there's the possibility this weekend that a Conference USA team upsets an SEC team. And
We'll get to that when we get to that. You're
Yes.
talking about Western Kentucky?
Yes! Hilltoppers upset Vandy. You heard it here first.
Is that really an upset?
Probably. Okay, we'll address the next to last major conference. Dive into my favorite whatever conference, and then we'll finish with the best conference. Pac-12.
We already did the Big Ten. Oh, okay. The Pac-12. Well, clearly the big game this weekend is taking place in the Coliseum as the Southern California Trojans and their star Cody Kessler open against those heroes of the Sun Belt, your Arkansas State Red Wolves. That game will be Saturday night at 9 on Pac-12 networks, if hopefully you have that, as I do. That's
So
a
you're
9
not going to
p.m.
be at
game.
the 190. You're not going to be at 191 at David's.
Well, I'm probably going to be at 191 because the wife wants to get me out of the house, and so I'll probably just come
And
home.
David
and see
has
the second
Pac-12
half.
network, so.
Oh well, then we're good then. Yeah, well, you'll know. He'll
Really,
have to
but
run
you know,
us down.
I think you're underselling it. The actual biggest battle is going to be Steve Sarkisian versus Sobriety.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he's managed to survive because, that's not a school. Pete Carroll could embarrass people as long as he won. Sark, he hasn't exactly torn up the pea patch down there in South Central Los Angeles. But Pat Hayden,
He's only been there a year.
Well, and it doesn't help that Carroll has set the bar really high for USC.
well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Wow, Fox Sports 1 has State at Southern tomorrow night. That's Saturday night. That's an 8 o'clock game on Fox Sports 1.
I think an
No,
interesting
don't give a shit.
an interesting game of the Pac-12 is the Arizona State Texas A&M game.
Yes. We will learn very quickly just how much John Chavis has been able to affect and upgrade the A&M defense because
Holy
they
cow.
will be tested right off the bat.
And
A&M is a 3.5 point favorite, and it's a 69.5 over and under.
I'm hammering that over.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah, it's like back up the key. It's not Keith Moon this time. It's John Bonham.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
John Bonham at the Guinness plant.
Go.
Okay, further in the Pac-12. Oregon regresses, 1 loss or 2?
I'm going to say 2 losses, and I think they wind up losing the North to Stanford. It wouldn't be the first time, and it won't be the last time. They've still got it. They've got this hot transfer in, but still, he's not Mariota, and they've still got to adjust. So I think they lose the North to Stanford.
And they've got a rough back half of their schedule. They've got at Arizona State, Cal, at Stanford, USC at home, and then finished with cross-state Oregon State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not the easiest back end of your schedule.
Yeah. No. I know. And but who wins the South? It could be a team from Los Angeles, but might not be the team in Cardinal and Gold.
Well, I was thinking UCLA is the favorite if their quarterback's any good.
Yeah. And the freshman is going to be starting. And UCLA, they have they open with Virginia. That's the 2:30 game Saturday afternoon.
Virginia plays good, strong man-to-man defense. Oh, wait, wrong one.
Wrong sport. Wow, and ABC's main game is BYU Nebraska. Oy.
Good God, that you know what that screams? White.
Yeah.
Is that the whitest matchup you could get?
What is it?
BYU Nebraska.
Pretty white.
Yeah.
The only whiter matchup is BYU at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But there's actually Nebraska Notre Dame is pretty up there. No.
Yeah, that BYU Utah game's pretty white.
Oh. Yeah, BYU Utah. That's
in-state though. In-state doesn't count.
Yeah, but you can see that from space. That's so white you can see that from outer space. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
let's move on to everybody's favorite whatever conference. Where knows John? Man, I got the yawns.
Yes.
Let's see. There's one major. Cincinnati, Memphis. That they're the class of the AAC, and I cannot believe I actually said those words.
Yeah.
We have this year. There will be a championship game. If Memphis beats Cincinnati, we could host that championship game for the right to come and play where?
In the Liberty Bowl, probably.
No, I don't think the champion for the AAC goes there.
I'm not sure where they go right now.
Because that can't be because it was the Conference USA championship that went to the Liberty Bowl.
Yeah, I remember my old joke. Memphis wins the right to come play in Memphis.
Yes. Oh, that's scary.
They never even came close.
Yes. Woohoo!
But the rest of the conference isn't. I mean, Temple's going to be up.
Temple could be a surprise in the AAC.
Yeah, Memphis has a not easy schedule.
And Memphis has to play a big game with Bowling Green. That's one of the 2 places they could falter before the Ole Miss game. I'm still hopeful they'll be undefeated when Ole Miss comes to town. But, Cincinnati and Bowling Green are going to be the keys. And I guess that's all we have to say on the American Conference.
No, I mean, we still have a secondary partnership with the Liberty Bowl, but if they're never going to select Memphis to come play in the Liberty Bowl.
I would think so either.
Win the right to come play in Memphis. Go win the right to play at home. Okay.
Yeah. Oops.
It would be great if they did get to play in the Liberty Bowl, though.
That would be a fun thing.
Yes. All right.
The
SEC. I'm going to mute out because I've got a severe yawn about to hit, and I'll just let you guys take it from here.
All right. Glenn, I'm going to do my picks worst to first in each division, and then I want to hear yours.
Okay.
The West, from 7th to 1st.
Okay.
LSU on the bottom. They lost Sean Chavis as their defensive coordinator. I don't know how in the hell they get over that. Les looks like he knows what he's doing less and less every year. I think A&M is 6th. Arkansas, because I just don't trust them, I'm picking 5th. Ole Miss 4th. Of course, you never know about Ole Miss, but I don't trust them to win the division. Bama 3rd. I think State does extraordinarily well and finishes 2nd, but I think Auburn is going to win the West. And more on that in a minute. In the East, Vandy brings up the rear, and then Kentucky is barely better. They're trying to get better, but I'm not seeing it. And I think Florida is still in bad shape. They come in 5th. The old ball coach is going to come in 4th. I think South Carolina is teetering. I think Spurrier's losing interest, and I think they have a bad year. They could go 6-6. Let's see. I have them 4th. 3rd, Tennessee. Tennessee's going to be better than everybody thinks, and they keep it close, but they don't win it. Missouri.
They seem to be the darling dark horse of the East this year.
I think so too. Missouri finishes 2nd. They don't win this year. Georgia does. But here's what I think the shockers are going to be. Auburn beats Georgia in the regular season. Georgia beats Auburn in the SEC title game. They both have 2 losses, and nobody from the SEC goes to the playoffs. That's my shocker from the SEC. Now, I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think I'll go East first. I agree with you about Vanderbilt, Kentucky, South Carolina 4 or 5. I wouldn't be shocked that I think one's going to finish there. It could go either way. Tennessee 3rd, and then it's going to come down to Missouri and Georgia.
Yeah.
It seems like Missouri seems to be on a good run, and Georgia always seems to have that one loss that keeps them from really being a good team.
Yes.
I agree with you. Alabama and Auburn are going to be battling out for winning the West, and then after that, I could almost see. I think it's going to be close. I don't think there's going to be a truly bad team in the West, but I think it's going to be a long year in Baton Rouge.
Yes.
If I don't think Les is not on the hot seat, but I think if they have another 3 or 4 loss team, that he's going to start off next year on the hot seat.
I agree wholeheartedly.
They're just like I said. I can't get a good read because it's like you've got a lot of new quarterbacks coming into the league. There's going to be several. I think it's going to be a fairly mediocre for a lot of the teams in the SEC this year. I would not be shocked to see several 4 and 5 loss teams coming out of the SEC.
Yes.
And I'm going to agree with you. I don't think the SEC is going to. They have to be 1 loss or undefeated to get into playoff. And I would not be shocked if this is a year that there isn't an SEC team in the playoff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just think this is one of those years where it doesn't go for them. And yeah.
I think
Okay.
there's going to be a lot of interconference beating up on each other, and
Yeah.
you're going to have some 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 teams win some games that they're not supposed to.
Yes. I think State's going to be the team that nobody's really sure what they're going to do. I think they're going to be as good as last year, maybe a little bit better, but not good enough. And I think Auburn's really, really good. And now watch it. I picked them to win the West and watch them go belly up against Louisville this weekend. You know, it wouldn't surprise me. But we'll
Well,
just
I
have to
think
see.
like I said before, I think this is going to be a very a key. It'll give you a good sense of where Auburn is.
Hmm.
But I definitely think Malzahn has them going in the right direction.
Oh, no question about it. No question about it.
I'll be curious to see what Muschamp does to the defense.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, I think that's a lot of why I ranked them so high is because, you know, as a head coach, meh, as a defensive coordinator, he's never given anything but great effort and great results. You know, the question is, as with Chavis down in College Station, you know, can they do it quickly?
But if you think about it, I understand the prestige of being the head coach and being the man and all that stuff. But I mean, there's no crime in being a really good coordinator, especially in the SEC, because you're making almost or as much as a lot of college head coaches in the rest of college football.
And not every great coordinator can become a head coach. Cough, Norm Chow, cough. Um, I just think that you know he got to a level that was beyond him. You know.
Well, and also it's it's a Florida's one of those bad schools to be mediocre to bad because they're kind of spoiled.
Well, I think at this point, unless John wants to weigh in, we start talking about our final four picks.
Works for me. Steve, who do you have in the Final Four? And Kentucky and Duke are not eligible.
Yeah, wrong sport. Um, the number one team is going to be the number one team, and they're going to go in undefeated, and that's Ohio State. You know, maybe they lose to Michigan, they'll still be number one. Um, the other three, in no particular order, I'm going to pick UCLA because I think this is the year that shocks everybody, and they wind up winning the Pac-12 with only one loss. I think Clemson has a year like they've never had before, and Dabo figures out a way not to screw up. And because of what I've said about the SEC and the fact that TCU should be there, but they'll find a way to screw it up. The fourth team is going to be an 11-1 Notre Dame. I believe they're going 11-1, and I believe they're going into the playoffs, and I believe they will be humiliated right off the bat by Ohio State. I think Clemson beats UCLA, and Ohio State mauls Clemson, and Ohio State wins another national championship.
Before we move on, I'm just going to tell you, you're saying they're going to beat Georgia Tech, Clemson, and USC and or Stanford. They're going to win three. They're going to win 4 of those 5 games.
Yep.
Okay. Have you been drinking?
Not yet.
Okay. Glenn?
I'm going to say Ohio State's going to make it to the playoff just because of their schedule. Um, my heart is saying Alabama, but my head is saying Auburn. I think this might be the year that Auburn gets into the playoff. And that hurts to say. It really does. And then I'm going to go TCU, and whoever wins the Pac-12 out of USC and Oregon. The one thing I feel pretty sure about, even if Ohio State makes it to the playoff, I don't think they're going to win a second national championship. But like I was saying before, I would not be shocked if the SEC gets shut out, and if the SEC gets shut out, it might be Clemson that gets in as the fourth team.
Yeah.
Someone has LSU in the playoff, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be shocked if LSU has less than 2 losses.
Yep.
They could go undefeated. That's what's scary. They're mean and rugged enough they could.
Well, that's the one thing about those LSU teams. It's that they're mirror images of the Alabama teams. They play good defenses, so they rarely get blown out.
Yeah.
So they tend to lose ugly, close games. It's just a matter of can their teams seem to be, can they generate enough offense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they've got the stable of backs. Yeah. My 4, Ohio State, TCU, Auburn, and UCLA. No, Stanford. Ohio State, TCU, Auburn, and Stanford.
Wow.
I think Stanford loses to Ohio State in the first round. TCU beats Auburn 84-74.
Those 3-pointers, baby.
Yep. Those corner threes. TCU beats Ohio State in the championship because TCU has the one thing Oregon lacked, and that's a little bit of size.
Yeah.
And Gary Patterson is rightly celebrated as one of the greatest coaches in the NCAA.
Which he is. And yep. I would never argue that fact.
Okay.
The one thing I will say about Ohio State in that run is how incredibly tough they were.
We didn't get lucky until basically the game against Alabama.
But what I'm saying is just, I mean, they just flat out punched Oregon in the mouth, and they did not respond.
Yeah. No, that's traditional with Oregon. Is if you punch, I hate to say it, it's the old joke about finesse teams on defense. Yeah.
Well, and I think that Oregon had the path. They finally exposed Florida State, which everybody kind of knew that Florida State was on borrowed time. It was just a matter of when. And Oregon was finally the team that took advantage of it.
Okay.
Well, who do we think is on the hot seat this year?
We'll get to that in a second. We've got to pick 2 things. Well, we've got 3 picks we got to make them. We make them every year. It's the annual triumvirate. The I Don't See It, the Crater Bomb, and the Shooting Star. My I Don't See It, it's the team in the top 25. You look, you're like, what? And I have to go with a team that will surprise Steve, and that's Notre Dame. I don't see why they're in the top 10 or 12. I don't think they're any better than 8-4. Maybe 7-5. My Crater Bomb, terrible. The team that I think will just collapse. I don't there's not going to really be one this year, I don't think. I mean, there's going to be some teams that are going to be stank, but there's nobody surprising, I think, that's going to be stank. And shooting star, I think the team that makes the I think they're going to make the playoff. Well, not the playoff, but I think they will make the Big Six, Big Bowls, and that's going to be. You're going to laugh at me for this, Steve, but it's going to be Colorado State. I think Colorado State beats Boise State out for that non-power 5 bid.
I could see that. I could see that.
The only other team that non-power 5 bid's going to go to Colorado State, Boise State, or the winner or the winner of Cincinnati Memphis. It's going to be one of those three teams.
No, I agree with you there. My I can't see it team is Oklahoma.
Now remember the criteria. It's a team that everybody could have a 10-2. You think's maybe a 7-5, 8-4.
Oklahoma. I think this is a year that could prove to be Bob Stoops' undoing. I just think he fired Josh Heupel, his old quarterback, as his offensive coordinator. He's trying desperately to shake things up. But to be honest, OU used to have the most punishing defense in the country before.
They're closed. Baylor on the road for Bedlam.
Yeah. Yeah, and if they lose Bedlam again and go 7-5, I think Bob Stoops is forced to retire. And of course, that's bad news for Memphis because the probable next coach at Oklahoma would be Justin Fuente. But I think the I can't see it team.
Okay.
I think the Crater Bomb team. Well, I mean, I'm not going to pick Illinois because that's too easy.
Yeah, and they're expected to be stank.
And they're expected to be stank. I'm going to say LSU. I think the bottom's going to fall out for LSU.
You think they're only going to win 3 games?
I think they're only going to win 3 or 4 games. I don't know. I think Les Miles has lost his mojo, and he lost his defensive coordinator, and I just don't trust him anymore. Yeah, he can recruit, but I'm not sure he can coach. I say there's your Crater Bomb, LSU. And the shooting star, well, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised. I think it's Clemson. I think Clemson makes it all the way to the championship game and loses, but I think they overwhelmingly win the ACC. They smack down Spurrier in the game against SC, and they surprise everybody.
Okay, Glenn.
I guess that I don't see it would have to be LSU, because I don't think they're going to be very good. I think the Crater Bomb might be Mississippi State. I think there's going to be one of the teams out of the West that's just going to have a really hard season, but I just can't tell who's going to be. It might be A&M too if the defense doesn't come around like they're hoping it to, because then they'll be losing a lot of shootouts.
Yeah, I was close on Texas A&M, but I've seen them anywhere from 6-6 to 9-3. Right. So they don't quite qualify in the. I don't see it because I've seen multiple productions on them.
Right.
And your shooting star? That's always the tough one.
Star?
Huh?
What's the criteria for shooting star?
Steve kind of violated it. It's basically a team that's expected to go about 8-4, 9-3 that you think could go undefeated. A team that's projected to win 5 games that you think could win 10. I mean, it's Memphis last year would have qualified as a shooting star. They weren't expected to win more than 4 or 5 games, and they won 10. Yeah. Temple's borderline for me. They're a team that went 6-6 last year that I think they could go 10-2.
Yes.
They're borderline. I don't have enough faith in them to say they could, though.
everybody thinks UT, Tennessee has the potential to be that team. I just don't know if they're going to be that good.
It's hard to be a shooting star in the SEC
Right.
Yes.
because you end up having a lot of what like happened to Mississippi State last year, where you run into tough back-ended schedules. Yeah. All right, Steve was trying to start it. Your top 3 coaches that you think are probably going to either retire or decide to go spend more time with their family.
Well, I've already mentioned
Steven?
2 of them. I've
Yeah.
already mentioned 2 of them, and I think Les Miles and Bob Stoops both qualify. And I think,
I thought you said the HBC.
well, yeah, and I'm going to say Spurrier. I don't think Spurrier would be forced to walk the plank unless they went 2-10, and I don't see that happening. But I think that in terms of underachievement and being forced to retire earlier than planned, yeah, those are my picks: Miles and Stoops and Spurrier. What do y'all think?
Now, my picks are Al Golden, Mark Rick, and Coach Abs, Texas Tech.
Oh yeah,
There's been a little bit of a revolt. If he doesn't go 7-5, 8-4, he's in real trouble there.
yeah.
Rick needs to make the SEC championship game, and Al Golden, he's a dead man walking this year.
Yes.
What do you think, Glenn?
I'm going to agree that I want to see how South Carolina does. I mean, Spurrier cannot keep doing this forever. He's going to retire within the next, say, 3 years. It's just a matter of is this a year or not? I think that Kevin Sumlin's seat is not hot, but I think he's starting off warm. And if they have another mediocre to bad year, he will start off next season red hot. And I think if what happens to LSU, what I think happens to LSU, Les Miles will also start off the season on the hot seat. I'll be curious to see what happens to USC since Sarkisian had that whole the brouhaha, and USC thinks they're supposed to be good this year, and if they have a bad year, and he started off the season with that drunken press conference, that might not be.
And especially if UCLA wins the South and maybe even wins the Pac-12 and gets in the playoffs, that will really make it tough on Sark.
And I agree with Stoops that if Oklahoma has a bad year, that he might be in trouble too.
Sarkisian's a weird case because that falls under the Mike Price corollary.
Right. There are things that are beyond his control that he is.
I wouldn't say they're beyond his control. They're not for on-field performance.
Well, I mean, there are things. Yeah. Okay. He started off on a bad foot.
Yes, he did. And Sark had a good rep as an assistant coach when he was at Troy before, but you can't do that. The main preseason banquet and you come out drunk? Really?
Well, especially a public school like SC.
No, SC's a private school.
Well, I mean, as far as.
Oh, I see what you're saying. A well-known school, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there are certain jobs where you're pretty much on all the time, as the aforementioned Mr. Price learned.
Oh yes.
That there's there is no off season that you are pretty much in the spotlight all the time.
Yep. 24/7, 365.
Well, do we have anything else?
I think that's a pretty good college football preview, and it all starts tomorrow night, y'all.
Or last night as this goes up. So.
Well, yes.
All right. That'll be it. Y'all enjoy.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.